Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats Podcast. It is Wednesday, October 4th. This is our 33rd episode of the Sneakers and Cleats Podcast. It's the High School Hype Squad edition. You and I had a fun week, fun day at the All-Star Selection. We'll get into that a little bit, Chuck. I got Chuck here. Zach is over at the Spurs right now talking to Wemby, so he'll join us on Friday. But today, just Chuck and me, not enough. But
old guy, young guy.
I'm just here to help you technologically, all right, with Zooms and QR codes.
Dude, you came in totally clutch the other day, man. Salute you with the wrong hand.
I mean, at least we're not like New Braunfels ISD, which has their phone systems down right
yeah,
now. At least
how
our
weird
phone
was
systems
that,
are okay.
right?
Well, this is episode 33, so there's a lot of 33s to consider when it comes to the greatest of the great. So who's your greatest of the great 33?
Well, I mean, you have quite a list there, but honestly, what comes to mind to me...
Oh, my God. It's going to be someone off the beaten path.
It is. Larry Walker. The
I
big
almost wrote that
left-handed
down.
hitter. Really?
I almost wrote that down.
Okay, my Larry Walker story is, I don't remember the year, but I was in Denver covering the Nuggets, but I was doing a little side project with these baseball people, and so I needed to go to Coors Field to interview Dante Bichette to get some sound from him to use for a project that I was working on.
Is that Bo Bichette's dad?
It is Bo Bichette's dad, yes, to show you how old I am. So in between going from the field up to the press box, and I believe this was the third ever game at Coors Field, third or second, fourth in that region. Brand new ballpark.
Within the last
beautiful,
31 years.
So it's old. It's not that old. It's not 31 years.
31 seasons for the Rockies. I don't know how old Coors is.
Right. So, yeah, I'm trying to think. This was easily in the mid to late, maybe early 90s. It was in the early 90s. So whenever that was. Anyway, I'm making a long story longer. Larry Walker, they said, hit a ball like 650 feet during batting practice. And I was always thinking, how did I miss that? I mean, who knows what a ball that looks like 660 feet or whatever the heck he hit that day. But they said it was in the upper tank. And I was thinking, oh, just my luck. I was walking between. The thing I noticed about Coors Field, though, that was cool, they had beer spigots.
It's a really cool field. They've done some renovations now. They have like this upper deck areas where people can watch the Rockies lose their games. So it's kind of nice.
Yes.
For me, I mean, of course, you go to Larry Walker and not the 8 probably more well-known names that I had written down.
Yes.
I mean, between Kareem, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, Patrick Ewing, Frank Robinson, Patrick Roy, Alonzo Mourning. No relation to Patrick Roy here. We're a Roy family, not a Roy family.
That's right.
But for me, it's Kareem. But ultimately, who's actually like bigger? Like in terms of legacy and everything, is it Kareem or is it Bird? I think Kareem's obviously higher on the list of players of all time. But like when it comes to legacy and who's more well known, who do you think it is, Larry or
That's a
or
tough
Kareem?
one. I mean, because, Kareem had a career, a really good one, before Larry even got into the league.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's got to be Kareem.
I mean, plus his record stood until this year when LeBron broke
Right.
his scoring record. I mean, the longevity of Kareem's career is something that's almost unparalleled. I mean, it is now with LeBron, but
Right.
plus so many championships, so many points scored for Milwaukee and for the Lakers. I mean, Kareem's just the greatest. If I had to attribute 33 to one player, it would have to be him. Even though Patrick Roy, best goalie of all time. If we're going to be a hockey podcast here, so
Right. He's a heck of a goalie.
he was. And then I had to get a Miami Heat legend on there, Alonzo Mourning. So props to Zoe. This week, going to recap a really interesting Week 6 of high school football and preview a jam-packed Week 7. Going to go over our TNL Top 10, our sub-TNL Top 10 a little bit, just briefly. We'll also preview our TNL matchup, which is a really good one this week between Steele and New Braunfels. New Braunfels always gives them a game, so it was great to get to talk to Coach Mangold and Coach Steele, and Coach Signs this week. Very interesting individuals, as always.
Yeah, great coaches, obviously both of them. Both of them have tremendously talented teams. You're right about the history of these two teams playing one another, especially in New Braunfels. I mean, that's a tough place to play, and I would expect there to be a huge crowd on both sides
Right.
for the city of New Braunfels to be at this football game. Steele's got so many D1ers, but, again, you look at New Braunfels' record, I think it's easy to dismiss them, right? 2-3, but we had them in the top 10 for a reason. I mean, they've had 3 losses combined, I think 9 points.
9 or 10 points.
Yeah.
I think they lost to Denton Ryan first, and it was by 2.
Yeah, and they had a big lead in that game.
Yeah.
So
They've definitely they're competing all year in every single facet of it. So it's going to be a good game. I think they only lost last year by 17. The year before that, I think it went to overtime, and Steele had to get the 2-point conversion or it was at the end of regulation, where they were in New Braunfels, and Steele had to pull that one kind of out of their butts. So, but first, let's get over to what the really cool experience that Chuck and I had this week. Chuck, you've been on the San Antonio Sports All-Star Game Committee before. This was my first year doing it. It was really kind of a cool process. So obviously we can't really get into the players that were selected so far yet. Those are going to be announced on Sports Sunday with Dawn. This coming up Sunday, so next Wednesday we'll kind of be able to get into more of the nitty-gritty of the selections. But just as far as the process goes, what kind of can you say about the process of choosing the All-Stars for the game?
Well, first of all, it comes down to coaches from each school, right? Selecting the players that they think would make good All-Stars. So that in and of itself makes this a really hard thing to try to vet and to go through, because each one of these kids in their own way is deserving or have earned their way for a shot at doing this, And then I think the thing that gets me every year is that some position groups you have are really easy to make choices, and then there are others, as we ran into a couple,
my
that
God.
was like, how do we pick 2 quarterbacks when there are 7 that could go?
There was, I think was it the quarterback group
Team
for
Gold?
the gold team?
Yeah.
It was the gold team where we were like, who do you want to choose? Pick 2 names and you can't go wrong with any of them. Like, there wasn't an obvious clear-cut 1, and there wasn't an obvious clear-cut 2. I think we ended up going with 3 and kind of sacrificing on another's position group. But it's so difficult when there's so many good players in San Antonio, and you have so many great seniors, and all the coaches are saying such good things about their players, and you want to give everyone that opportunity to have an extra game, like an extra showcase. And it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
It's like this every year, right? I mean, like for me, there was one team, it was pretty easy to go through and say, well, it was easier, I should say, to go through and say, yep. And then, again, these position groups, some of them were just so stacked. It was like, how are we going to do this? This is, and I know I left the room saying, look, I know you guys are going to, vet and tweak and do whatever, but how can this one kid be left off the team?
There was a couple of people who, like, I feel like all of us had 1 or 2 players that we were kind of like pounding the table for, making sure they got in, because we had seen them, or we had watched some film, or we had that on a TNL game, or whatever the case may be. I think overall we made almost all the right choices.
Well, time will tell, right?
We'll
it's
see.
always that's what I'm always concerned about, right? There's going to be a kid that isn't picked and is going to have a 10-year career in the NFL someday. And you didn't take me for the All-Star game. And, I hope that's what ends up happening. I mean, we certainly don't want to think that just because a kid isn't taken that this is going to be the end of his football career. We hope they go on to do great things,
And
sometimes it literally comes down to numbers. We even had a coach, right, call us and say, look, I think you got 1 guy on the team. Great, congratulations. But we have another kid that we think is even more worthy. And it's like, so then what do you do there? But a lot of this comes down to needs. Like last year, I think we were a little thin on offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. This year we had a gazillion offensive linemen.
Well, the tackles on the gold team were you couldn't go wrong with any of them either. Right. It was so there were some position groups where you were like, all right, well, there's 4. Crap, what about the 5th and 6th one? Because they're all good players. They're being selected for a reason, and they're being selected and nominated by their coaches for a reason. And so it comes down to us being like, damn it.
Yes, and I think a lot of this too is, and if the coaches are listening, I mean, you've got to sell your kids better than he's a good kid.
Yeah.
You've got to tell us, the resumes mean something. And if you can give all the stats and what they've done, and that helps influence the room a lot when you can see numbers
Right.
and what they've done and
Or
what
if
they're
there's
doing
like
outside
or if there's a
the
good
classroom.
story about behind them or something like that. You know, anything you can do to differentiate your students and your student athletes, it helps a lot. It's also difficult because we want to try and get everyone a little bit of representation, even if you're a smaller school like Natalia or Lavernia or whoever, just throwing those two names out there. Compared to the big schools, like we like getting all of those guys in there. And I think this year we're going to have the most schools represented ever at an all-star game. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's really cool that David Castro and his group at San Antonio Sports have really, tried to make this
70
as
teams we can
wide
choose from.
of a span or a scope of teams as you could possibly get. And boy, he really does a nice job, doesn't he? You just kind of go in, the lists are there,
Yeah.
the resumes are there. Well done, David Castro.
Yeah, hats off to David Castro. I mean, he and the team over at SA Sports do a brilliant job of preparing everything and making sure we're prepared, having all the information in front of us, telling us when everything's going to be. We did it on Monday, so it was a little difficult on that Monday just because we had Spurs Media Day, and I think the guys over at SA Sports Star had their tournament, their golf tournament over at Olympia Hills, so Jason Minix wasn't able to join us. But it could not have gone more smoothly, and like I said, hats off to them because they make it easy on us.
But just to show you, what it means to these guys to be included in the group. I mean, Minix had an obligation, but he sent a sheet in with all the guys that he was voting for. David Hinojosa from the Express News doing the same thing. So these guys, they realize that this is an important thing, and they're not just lollygagging their way through it and willy-nilly throwing names at the wall. I mean, guys are really doing the best they can because it's hard to have eyes on every single guy, especially in the outlying areas.
Right. I mean, we had 70 schools, I believe, that were represented with some sort of nomination from their coach. I haven't seen 70 schools play, so that's why having more eyes on it. I think we had Robbie there. I mean, Carl Padilla was on part of the poll. I mean, you've seen different teams than I have. I've seen different teams than you have. So all of us are able to offer some sort of insight. I believe we had at least 2 eyes on every kid in that room, and there was 216 kids that we were choosing, or 218 kids we were choosing from, and we only got to choose 116. So sadly, some got left off that we thought should have been on, and it's always better to have more eyes on them.
Do this every year, right? It's just there's certain position groups that for whatever reason that year there's way more talent than there is at some other positions. So it stinks, but that's life too.
You know what I didn't expect going in there is having so many talented long snappers. That took me by surprise.
It's amazing how many long snappers have come from the area here, and it speaks to what is going on in the area as well. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I thought that was really interesting, but the last thing that I was going to ask Zach if he was here, but obviously he had other things to do. I'm not blaming him or anything, but what can you say about the talent that is in this area? I mean, I feel like sometimes San Antonio gets overshadowed by whether it be the Austin area or, up in Duncanville and Dallas or Fort Worth or Houston. You've been here for so long. You've seen so many talented guys, whether it be Malcolm Brown or Terrence Steele, or I could go on and on and on about the talent that's come out of San Antonio. Do you feel like sometimes they get overshadowed?
I think so, yes, but I think for the most part, no, because I think ultimately the cream does rise to the crop, or to the top.
Cream of the crop.
Mike Budenholzer quote. Sorry, but it's just like for baseball. Like there was a long time. It seemed like we had very few guys that were making an impact at the major league level. This year we got 3 rookies playing, and all 3 of them were on contending teams. 2 of them are enjoying seats at the postseason table in the American League. Mm-hmm. So, I think right now we've got a pretty good flow of guys that have elevated themselves to the NFL. I think Austin has been the one that's made the biggest leap with, you could talk about maybe being overlooked for a while, but now, I mean, they've got a lot of talent coming through there. Even in the Valley, too. I mean, the state is getting smaller and smaller in that regard. And because of that, I think it's creating more competition, right? So I don't know that we're overlooked all that much. I mean, obviously, if, we've got 1.9 million viewers in our area, but, there's 5 million people living in Houston. I mean, if you're a scout or a recruiter, you're going to go to the place that has more if you're on a clock, to you can vet more guys in a shorter period of time in Houston or Dallas than you can in San Antonio. But I think ultimately guys that are really good are going to get seen at some point. It's just, we don't live in an age where you can hide people anymore.
Yeah, especially with Huddle and with social media and with everywhere that you can put your film. Like if a scout can see you or hear maybe this podcast, maybe they'll hear, I'm just going to pull a name out of a hat, Jackson Gutierrez over at Jay. Maybe they hadn't heard of him before, and we talk about him because Jay's on a 6-0 run to start the season, and maybe they'll be like, oh, maybe I should take a closer look at that kid. It's all about getting more exposure for the talent that's in your area. And that's part of the reason that, I like being a part of the San Antonio Sports All-Star Games, part of the selection committee, part of this podcast, part of the sports team here, because you want to see the kids in your area do well. And when they do well, it makes you even more excited to be able to come to work and talk about them. And it's just that's why I love high school football and high school athletics.
Right. And I mean, to your point too, it's like, take a guy like Trey Moore, right?
Yeah.
Hidden. And it didn't take very long for everybody in the country to know who Trey Moore is at UTSA.
Absolutely.
From Smithson Valley. And now, for sure, a pretty high-end NFL prospect.
Yep.
Hopefully returns soon to action here. I know UTSA could use him on the defensive side of the ball.
We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
The emergency alert system, the national emergency alert system. So at least we know if, Russia's going to come bomb us, we'll have an alert.
Well, let's hope not. Right?
Let's hope that doesn't happen. All right, let's get to some football. More football. Actual on-the-field football. Quick recap of the big Week 6 games. Churchill beat Roosevelt 29-13. Ron Harris having a hell of a year. I mean, what else can be said about him and his team? Roosevelt's a good team, and the Rough Riders have been having a heck of a season. Churchill is having a renaissance year and just ran away from them literally in the second half.
Yeah, Ron Harris, I know we've talked about this before, but he just never ceases to amaze me with evaluating what he has, tailoring everything around what he has, and then going and executing to the best of his team's ability more often than not. And they just win their share of games that are 50-50 games.
Yeah.
It's every single year. And then if he's got a couple of players or some good talent mixed in there, look out. And it's fascinating, right? Because in that league, if you would have said going in Roosevelt, Churchill, you might have thought that Churchill won, but not by the way that they won it.
Yeah,
I mean they're getting better.
That kid had the running back over there, Perry, had 3 touchdowns in that game. I mean, they're often in the offensive line. If you watch the game, the offensive line was creating alleys, and like Merrill Hodge used to say, canales on the offense. Like, he was running through untouched. He could have held hands with Ron Harris and run through those. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like the running back over there had 3 touchdowns, but obviously the offensive line should have gotten the game balls because they were on fire all game.
Good to see. I love it. And they cracked our top 10 this week.
They did. Jay and Soto. Jay remains undefeated. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but Jay obviously is undefeated. They're 6-0 right now. This is the first time they've started 6-0 since 2003 when they went 9-0. So a heck of a start for Gutierrez and the Jay Mustangs. And then Vet Memorial outlasted Lockhart in overtime last week, 48-42. Heck of a win for them as well. So just like highlighting a few of those games, even though Vet is not in our TNL top 10, still having a very good year, even though they had to forfeit that week 1 win. Let's get to the TNL top 10. So Reagan, they beat Lee. They are number 1. They're 5-0, 3-0 in district. They beat Lee 59-0. I don't really know what else can be said about Reagan other than that they're the best team in our region. They're the best team in our area, and Caleb Capuccio and Pryor and all of the offensive weapons that they have, and Brad Jackson at the quarterback, they are almost unstoppable, and I can't wait until they play Johnson next week.
It's going to be a fantastic ball game, right? I mean, Reagan's defense is just otherworldly.
Yeah.
The way they fly around and the way they come after you, and obviously Johnson's number 2 for a reason, so we're going to get a chance to settle the big boy game coming up.
I can't wait for that one. That's going to be such a good game.
Right.
So Reagan has Madison this week. Your alma mater there, Chuck.
Yeah, Madison's done a good job this year. I mean, a little up and down, but you would expect that in the league that they play in. I mean, every team is really, really good.
Right, and Madison's quarterback, Landon Gill, very, very good, very underrated. And Madison's, the water I'm drinking, coming all over the place. Madison's
Vasa kein Gas.
Madison's coach is going to be the coach of the SA Sports All-Star Game, so that'll be good to see. But they're having a pretty good year this year as compared to last year.
Yeah, Blaine Peterson's done a really nice job there. And you talked about Gill. To me, he reminds me of a smaller version of Johnny Manziel. I mean, we had a game a couple years ago when he was just a young guy, and he was running for his life the whole game, and you couldn't catch, nobody could catch him or stop him. And that's what we've kind of seen as he's evolved in all this. I mean, he's got complete control and command of what's going on with that offense, and then he can make you miss. One of the more electrifying players in the entire area, for sure.
Yep, so it's going to be Madison and Reagan, 2 o'clock Saturday at Comalander. And then Johnson is our number 2 team. They remain at number 2. They beat Brandeis last week, 46-20. Reagan and Johnson on that collision course next week in the 28 6A matchup. There are the only 2 undefeated teams left in that district, and that's going to be a freaking battle. Like, I really can't wait for that.
I'm with you.
We might just air the whole thing on
wouldn't that be sweet?
It's going to be such a matchup. So Johnson does have to get through Clark first this week, though. They play 7:30 at Comalander on Friday. And then Steele. So they had a bye week last week. We're going to get into them here in a little bit after we go over to TNL Top 10. Their next game, obviously, TNL against New Braunfels, 7:15 at Unicorn Stadium. This is the first week they start district. To kind of that weird district, but they only have 6 teams, so they only play 5 district games. We got Harlan at number 4. They're 6-0, 4-0 in district. They defeated Stevens 42-7. They haven't allowed more than 200 yards in their last 2 games when they played Warren and Stevens, and those are 2 pretty decent teams in that district. They've beat them, I think it was 45-7 and 42-7. So Harlan and Coach Silas over there, they are ridiculous.
They're really, really good, right? I mean, we had a chance to see them when they played Brennan early on in the season, and I felt like that was kind of a litmus test game, obviously, for them as a program. But to win that game, to beat Brennan for the first time, I think that really emboldened those players and that coaching staff that we may have a pretty darn good team here.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of a coming out party for them.
Yeah,
like it was
good way to put it.
It was one of those things where it's like they finally punched Big Brother in the mouth, and they came out, and now they're 6-0, and they're clearly the team to beat in that division or in that district, if you ask me. They're 6-0. They're going to play Soto this week. Soto finally, getting their nose bloodied a little bit as they lost to Jay this week. They had played, I don't want to say cupcakes, but they had played a little bit of the easier part of their schedule. Now they're going to have to go play Harlan. I don't know, that might be kind of not a trap game, but a tougher game for Harlan, who hasn't had their bye week yet. They're still trying to get through and can remain on this undefeated streak. I think that might be a game to watch here this weekend.
I think so, too. I mean, we all know what we all think of,
with
Coach Morales. Yeah, and so he'll have his team ready. They are still young in a lot of spots, but I know he wouldn't use that as an excuse. And, I mean, we are, halfway through the season, so you've got a lot of these younger guys that have a lot of skins on the wall already just based on playing half of a season.
Yeah, and Soto did drop out of the top 10 this week after their loss to Jay, but hats off to Juan Morales and everybody over there. I mean, they're still having a fantastic year in their second year of existence. To be, I believe they're 5-1 now, or 4-1 now, and have done what they have done is a testament to him and all the players on that team. So Smithson Valley, they had a bye week last week. Their next game is this Thursday at Shelton Stadium against Kyle Lemon. 7 p.m. kick on Thursday. Rangers defending their district title against a team that has never made a playoff appearance in 17 years. So
didn't know that.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Smithson Valley's going to win.
Come on, Kyle. You can be better than that. Kyle Lehman. Wow. I did not know that was the case. Wow, good research.
Hey, man, I got you. That's not the Elias Sports Bureau. That's my Google searches.
Okay.
So that's their number 5, Smithson Valley. Number 6, Alamo Heights. They were also on a bye last week. Like we said, there was a lot of byes last week. It was a light week for high school football. So they're on a bye. They were on a bye. Mules are averaging 48.5, almost 48.8 points per game right now as they head through their district schedule. It's kind of the opposite of the Steele thing. It's like they have 9 district games and 10 teams in their district, and Steele has like 6 teams in their district and 5 district games. So it's like, which one do you want? Do you want to play more out-of-district games, more preseason before you get into district, or you just want to jump right in? And it's kind of tale of 2 districts there.
Yeah, Ron Ritterman's done a great job, obviously, there, and they've just been, seems like, skunking teams every single week. But Yeah, Jefferson's got a pretty good team too this year, and we
Monte
think a
Carter.
lot of their quarterback.
Yeah.
Yep.
Monte Carter's a hell of an athlete.
Yes, he is.
Jeff, like I said, they're playing Jeff Friday at Orem at 7 p.m. John Jay, they are number 7. We've talked about them already. Jackson Gutierrez is a great quarterback that they have there, probably the best that they've had in quite a while. This is the best start that they've had in the last 20 years when they started 9-0 in 2003. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see the synergy between father and son.
Right.
But son's really, really good. I mean, and so, if you have that, coach on the field too, I mean, it's amazing that and it's not just a one-trick team either. I mean, they've got other studs on that team. I would say that we're surprised, obviously, that they're 6-0. I don't know that anybody would have thought John Jay would have been, but now that they're here, I think it's kind of easy to see why, because if you take a closer look, there's a lot of good things going on at John Jay, and it's one of those teams you better be ready to play when you play them boys.
And I said Harlan's the team to beat in that district, but I might be wrong. I mean, Jay is super good.
Yep.
They are great athletes over there. I mean, they have Holmes this week, so I think we both expect them to get to 7-0. Then they have a bye right before the Harlan game. So they're going to have 2 weeks to prepare for a de facto district title game in week 9 is what that's going to be. So that's going to be a great matchup between Harlan and John Jay in week 9. I can't wait to talk about that one. Bernie Champion, they were on a bye last week as well. Their next game is this week against Seguin at 7 p.m. at Bernie ISD Stadium. Seguin, very potent rushing attack. They might not be winning a lot, but they got a great offense on them. Their running back, John Jackson, has 1,089 yards this season, 14 touchdowns. So that's pretty good stats for a high school back.
Amen. And then for Bernie Champion, too, they've kind of found ways to win games, and we saw that with our own 2 eyes when they won in the last second on TNL a few weeks ago. But really, really talented as well. Their schedule's about to really pick up here, but I was talking to one of the parents out there, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know that we're 5-0 good." It's like, well, that's good. That's where you want to be thinking. You don't want to be thinking we're 5-0 and be beating your chest. Right. You're 5-0 good. Your record is what you say you are. Now let's see if you can start getting even better, because more is going to be required as we move through the season.
Absolutely. I'm going to blow through these last couple just so we can get to the TNL game. Since these Wednesday episodes do tend to be a little longer because of all the interviews that we have with the coaches and the players and all that stuff. So blow through these last couple. Southside is number 9. They are 5-1, 4-0 in district. They defeated South San in a really close game. It was 27-26 last week. So they remain undefeated in district. They've won 5 in a row after losing to Somerset in week 1. So they have Laredo Cigaroa, 7 o'clock, Southside ISD Stadium on Friday. And then Churchill is last. We've already talked about Coach Ron Harris over there and their game against Roosevelt. Churchill is rounding out the TNL top 10. Their next game is against Brandeis, 7:30 on Friday at Heroes. Sub-TNL top 10 real quick. Cuero, number 1, they're 5-0. Bernie, number 2, they're 4-1. Jourdanton, 5-0. They are number 3. Lavernia, 4-1. They're number 4. Randolph, 6-0. They're number 5. That's a wagon over there at Randolph.
Yeah.
Hondo is 5-0. They are number 6. Bandera is 5-1. They're number 7. Poth, 4-1. They are number 8. They've got some athletes over there as well. Davenport is number 9. They're 3-2. And Stockdale has won 4 games in a row. They break into the sub-TNL top 10. They are 4-1. So let's get to our TNL game of the week. I was doing some research this week, and it's Steele against Steele against New Braunfels. And when I did the interview with Coach Mangold, he was sitting at his desk, and he has the TNL trophies behind him.
Nice.
He had all 4 of them on top of him. And I was like, I didn't notice until about halfway through the interview. And I was like, Coach, are those the TNL trophies behind you? He's like, hell yeah, they are.
Nice.
It was so funny, but it shows kind of how much pride that he takes in, 1, being on TNL, and 2, having the team that he has. So it's kind of cool to see him repping those trophies.
Dude, you haven't lived until you've had Mrs. Streety's cookies. So we're hopefully, and I don't know that Mrs. Streety's actually making cookies this year, but she has every time that we've gone there. Jim Streety's wife, of course, he's the longtime football guru from around here in the AD up there. Just wonderfully personable people. They're super hospitable. Every time you go to that ballpark to watch a game, you feel like you're in a nice atmosphere, watching a high school football game. Always a treat to go to New Braunfels.
Plus, one of the best mascots in our area. The Unicorns, man. They're imaginary and fantastic. What do you
pixie dust like
right?
flying around the room.
They should throw some when they score
Right.
touchdowns. What do you think? What do you think of the game? What's it going to come down to? Obviously, Steele's a juggernaut. The only game they've lost is to Lake Travis, and that was a 6-point game, I believe. So they've just been murking people and killing them all season, making them look like JV teams. We saw what they did to Brennan week 1. We saw what they've done to Midland Legacy and to Hutto and all the other teams they've played. I mean,
Steele from California, right?
Birmingham, California. That was the other win. They've just been. Coach Signs, I feel like, is really just starting to hit his stride.
I think so too, and I'm curious to see, you give a coach like that a bye week, and now this is really the second game on their schedule that is from a team that's from the area that they're going to be playing. So I don't know. They're really good. They're really talented, all the superlatives. And then New Braunfels is really good, really talented. And I really get the sense that they gave those games away, or at least that's the sense that Coach Mangold has, the games that they lost. So it's game on. You're taking a team that has to go into that environment. We'll be here for it all.
Yep.
Thursday at 7 on the CW.
Well, what's really cool, too, is just talking about the New Braunfels guys. Leighton Adams had a really bad scare last year, this year technically, when he was at a basketball game and he got bored during halftime, went outside, climbed a pole and got electrocuted, fell 30 feet. Apparently 12,000 volts went through him, fell 30 feet, broke a couple of vertebrae, and they thought that he might not ever play football again. And here he is leading his team, and he's having a really good year, but his whole family's saying it's a miracle that he's even here.
Well, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. Glad to see that he's made his way back onto the field. And I just, it's a lesson for everybody, right? I know he learned a lesson the hard way. I had a similar situation when I was in high school. I won't go into the details, but the stuff that you do when you're 17 years old, 16 years old, I mean, you feel like you're invincible. You do stupid things. And luckily, by the grace of God, somebody gives you a chance to learn from the lesson. But I will say this about Leighton. His hair is elite.
His hair is elite. We're going to see that here in a
Yes.
second. Also, speaking to the New Braunfels players, they're just battle-tested and ferocious. I mean, Coach Mangold told both of us and told me on the interview that there's also their right tackle, I believe, is battling cancer right now. And
Yep.
it's so amazing to see athletes at any level go through things like that and come out on the other side and keep battling and doing what they love to do.
Yeah, I mean, and that young man did it on the baseball field, just rounding a base, and his leg came out from under him, and then they did the x-rays and they found the scans. So I know there's a battle royale going on there for not only the young man, obviously him first, but his family, and then that whole community kind of rallying behind him. We'll get into that, and we'll share that story more on Thursday night. But yeah, I mean, these are real life stories, right? You talk about who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's the Johnny, who's the Joe, all that stuff. And when you get right down to the just the life lessons that we're all learning as we go through this journey through the vehicle of sports is, gives you a little chills.
Yeah,
down your
absolutely. Let's get to the interviews real quick. David Signs and Glenn Mangold. David Signs going to be first. Then we will play Coach Mangold for you. Chuck and I will be right back.
All right, Coach David Signs over at Steele, the 4-1 juggernaut of Cibolo area. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Just getting ready to take on the new Braunfels Unicorns. So it's a short week, so we got a lot to get in.
Coach, you guys tend to front load and give yourself a hell of a non-district schedule. Got Lake Travis on there, Brennan, historically a very good team. Obviously, you guys handled them this year. Why is it that you guys kind of front load that schedule and give yourself such tough tests before the district season really begins?
Yeah, it's a lot of it comes down to we want to play really quality opponents, and majority of the time, the better the opponents that you play, they're gonna expose some things early on in the year that some weaknesses that you may not have known that you have. When you play against staffs like Brennan and Lake Travis, Midland Legacy, Hutto, and then that team from California, they're going to find, any weakness, like I said, that you may have, and that's what we're always looking at as coaches. Came out and especially in the preseason, we've had the luxury of having 5 preseason games, which allowed us to help us with the puzzle. We're always trying to get that puzzle together. Where some teams may have one non-district game and they're using those district games to try to put the pieces together. We've had 5, so anytime you can schedule really good opponent, that's gonna show you things that you need to work on and get fixed before the district ball games.
Coach, is it weird for you at all having only like 5 district games? And really this year, I think you have 4 teams that make it and only 5 can get in, even though you have 6 teams in the district. So it's almost like making the playoffs isn't something you might be super worried about. So is that weird at all for you?
Yeah, it just having those 5 district ball games is the hardest part. Was finding the last 2 non-district games, just because everybody in our area has 8 or 9 teams in their district, and we're having to go to Midland last year, and then Midland came down, and then we had to play a team from California that came down and played. But yeah, it's weird. Years past we've always had 6, 7, 8 district games, to prepare for, but it's just. It doesn't matter. If there's 6 teams, 5 teams, or 8 or 9. Our district's always extremely tough. We just look at the opponents from the bottom.
Coach, you guys have pretty much handled everyone on your resume so far, except for Lake Travis, and obviously last year you guys beat Lake Travis, and then they beat you in the postseason. As you guys go into your bye week, what's that bye week look like, or what did that bye week look like for you guys? Was it a bunch of self-scouting, or was it kind of scouting forward for the district games?
Yeah, the first couple of days there was a lot of self-scouting. We went in and we allowed our players to get their legs back a little bit. We cut practice back a little bit. But again, it went back to just doing our X's and O's and things that we saw were our weaknesses, and then trying to get those things fixed. And then later on in the week, we started to implement, getting ready for New Braunfels, so that we knew a short week was coming. So it was a good thing to have that bye week, so we could get a day or two last week, jump start for the short week. But yeah, a lot of it is self scout and just us just working our bread and butter, working on our craft, perfecting our craft, and getting better at it. And again, at the same time, allowing our guys, we played 5 really physical football games in those first 5 weeks. So it allowed us to get our legs back a little bit too.
Coach, looking at this New Braunfels Unicorn team, they much better than their record says they are. I think they've lost all 3 of their games by a combined less than 10 points. So as you look, and they always give you guys a run for your money, it seems like. So what is it that Coach Mangold does over there that gives you guys a little bit of trouble?
Yeah, they're extremely sound. They're extremely well coached. They play, extremely hard and physical. And anytime you play in New Braunfels, it's going to be a battle. I think the last time we played down there, we had to go for 2 with no time left to come out with a victory. So, they're just a tough football team in all 3 phases. And there's something to be said, about Coach Mangold on the staff, the way how hard those kids play, in all 3 phases of the game. And they're extremely, like I said, on defense and special teams are extremely sound, and then on offense they're extremely explosive. They scored a ton of points this year, and they got weapons, out at receiver to the running backs, by committee that they have, and the quarterback is doing a tremendous job of running that offense. And you can't say enough about. People have asked me this week about putting the keys to the game, and one of them is we got to try to control that offensive and defensive line, on our end of it, because that's where they make their money, and that's where they have in the past, is how physical they are up front. So those are the things that we look at when we turn that film on with New Braunfels. Is they're going to play fast, they're going to play physical, and they're going to be sound in everything they do. So we got to make sure that we have answers for things that they do.
Coach, you guys just seem to win 10, 11 games every year nowadays, and each team is different. What makes this team that you have this year different than all of the prestigious, great teams of Steele's past?
Yeah, that's we've had a lot of great teams come through here, and the foundation was set back in when the school first opened, and you had Malcolm Brown and those guys come through, and a lot of these guys have seen that and grown up and seen, the Justin Stocktons, the Caden Stearns, and those guys and their approaches. And, this team, we knew they were going to have a chance to be pretty good this year. We've had a lot of sophomores that played for us last year. And, our junior class has a lot of talent when it comes to the skill positions. But just, their work ethic and the way they go about their business, not only, on the football field, but from our off-season program to our summer programs. We have over 300 to 400 kids here for our strength and conditioning programs over the summer, and then our two-a-days. And, they just do a good job of playing the brand and the style that, the previous groups before them. And, they understand that the expectations of playing football at Steele High School.
Coach Lenhoff kind of set everything up, set the dominoes up for you to knock them down. So following someone like that, I mean, you have clearly not disappointed following a legend like Coach Lenhoff. What was that like for you at first, following him, and then kind of trying to build your own identity as well?
Yeah, like the coaches always say, everybody wants to be a head coach, and once you get to sit in that big chair, it's a little bit different. It's now you're making decisions for the entire program. And I got here to Steele High School in 2007, and Coach Jinks was the head coach back then, and then Coach Lenhoff was offensive coordinator, and then when he stepped down after to be the athletic director after we went to state, and I was I interviewed, got the job, and you just try to do right by your coaches, and you let the chips fall where they may. There's always going to be stresses and expectations, but the staff that we've had here, a lot of us have been around for 10 plus years, so they understand the expectations and how things are run. And then that goes from the same thing from our off season to our two-a-days to a regular season. And with a lot of the stuff that was in place back in 2007, a lot of that is still in place today. But again, you change, every so often, just with the amount of, with the times, with the technology and the things that have come. And, it's an honor to be the head coach at Steele High School, and I know, our staff does a great job of coaching our kids and doing right by kids.
Speaking of the kids, Coach, I love asking coaches this question because it gives you a chance to kind of brag on who you got. So can you give me maybe 2 to 3 guys on offense and on defense or special teams? I mean, they matter as well. That kind of exemplify Steele football. What is that Steele brand, and who are those Steele brand players that you kind of hang your hat on?
Yeah, I could name, there's a bunch of kids. We talk about, if you're talking about the brand, we have this little saying, ride for the brand. It's about playing with playing physical, playing intense, and then having great sportsmanship, being a great teammate. And those are some of the things that we look at for our football players. And a couple of guys that come to mind are like Royal Capel. He's a receiver for us, junior receiver. He works extremely hard. He's one of our best players, best athletes on our team, but he's also a great leader. And he not only on the field, not only in the classroom, but in the community. And those are guys that we talk about the foundation that was here before, like Malcolm and those guys. I mean, those guys set that foundation of what it meant to be a Steele Knight, which is, yes, it's also to be a great athlete, but the majority of our top players are great people too. So Royal Capel's one. Another one would be Chad Warner, which is our quarterback. He fits in that mold too. And then Devin Nixon, which is our starting tackle, 2-year starter for us, and just the unselfishness that those guys have, and the way that they lead, our team, offensively. I can't say enough about them. You look at our defense. We have Abden Mata, which is a 2 to 3-year starter for us at defensive end. You got Dante Carter and AJ Williamson. Those 2 guys are Vanderbilt commits. And again, when you look at your best players, or the guys that on your team that have the potential, they're D1 guys, and and they're out here and they're the first ones at practice, last ones to leave. They're acting right in the classroom, in the community. You're not having issues with them. Those are things that exemplify what a Steele Knight is, in my opinion.
Coach, talking about them getting out of the community and just your community as a whole, what you guys have built there since the school opened is nothing short of amazing when it comes to football. But what comes with winning a lot of times is also people starting to invest and really invest their time, invest their money, invest everything that they can into your guys' program. And then as soon as they invest into your guys' program, then they invest into the entire school, and the community becomes family. So what has that been like for you? You've been there since 2007 to see that growth and kind of the investment from that entire community over Cibolo Steele.
Yeah, we talk, there's two different parts, of the community. First off, you have our administration. When we talk about our school community, we have great support from our administration, and that comes, from the district office with the superintendent, assistant, students, obviously Coach Linhoff, the athletic director, but our principals and our vice principals and counselors and teachers, we work great together here at Steele. It's pretty awesome to have the amount of support that we have from our administration and our staff, here at the school. And then you talk about the outside community, and the sacrifices that a lot of our parents, that they do for their kids, whether it's, the outside extra training or the 7-on-7 stuff that they do. And they take them out, a great amount of pride in that too. Making sure that their kids are getting the extra on the outside as well as what we're doing here. And, that's just it's a bond, between the school and the outside community that is, it's like you said, you mentioned earlier, it's very, very, very.
You guys can't build something without the parents investing. So there's
no doubt.
I mean, not a lot can happen without parents buying. So last question for you, Coach. I know we love having you guys on TNL.
Yes,
it's always great to showcase the best teams in our area. And what you guys, like I said, what you guys have built there is phenomenal. So when it comes to because I know you guys have to accept to be on TNL and all that stuff, and it's an extra burden for you doing these interviews with me and then talking to Chuck and all of the stuff that Chris Cothis asks for and all that stuff. So why do you guys continue to want to be on TNL and showcase that community that we were just talking about?
First off, TNL do a tremendous job, and anytime we can get asked to be, a part of that, we're always going to say yes. And not only because it's great for our kids, it's great exposure for our program and our community, but somebody asked me this question, a little bit earlier today, and my thing is, what makes Friday night special are, of course we want to go out and perform extremely well on the football field, but when you get the band, you get the student groups out there, you get the ROTCs, cheer, dance, and you get them all together in an area. And that is the true meaning of Friday night experience. We talk about Friday night lights, yeah, there's a football game going on, but just the support that you get from all those groups, and it can be showcased by Thursday night lights, the other groups as well, because they work just as hard and they spend just as many hours as well as preparing for these types of things, just to promote the things that they do. It's awesome, and it's great to help promote our football program in Steele High School and the great things that are happening here.
I mean, the only bad thing about Thursday is they got school the next day, so we can't celebrate too hard when you win.
Yeah, well, yeah, at least it's a close game, so they won't get home too late.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Coach, that's all I got for you. I appreciate the time as always. I'll be on the sidelines Thursday, so I'll come and chat with you before the game.
Thank you. Not a problem.
Well, Coach Mangold over at New Braunfels, lucky enough to have you here. The best mascot we have, the Unicorns. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. One of a kind, that's for sure.
One of a kind. It's imaginary. So, Coach, you guys are having a pretty good season. You've only lost, I think all of your games have come by like less than 4 points, all of your losses, 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4, I think. So how is it being so close in those non-district games, and how do you think that propels you as you guys get closer and closer and now facing a district opponent this week?
Well, we knew our non-district schedule was going to be difficult, and just like it was last year. And uh, you know, you know, those close losses showed us some things that we needed to shore up and work on, and some of the weaknesses that we needed to work on throughout these last 5 weeks, and to get better. And I think our teams responded, and they have tried to address those things. And some things that you're doing good, you just want to keep on doing better and accentuate those positives.
Coach, when you guys have an opponent coming in like Steele, who is one of the best in the state, how does that kind of push you guys to even excel faster than you might otherwise?
Yeah, with Steele, what a good team they've put together this year, both offense, defense, special teams. They're doing a great job. Their athleticism and playmakers they have on offense, and that gets us going. And we I think over the past few years we've really understood what it's going to take to play with teams like that, and match their intensity and their execution.
Steele's one of those teams that they just come out and they punch you in the mouth. Last year, you guys really had a good game with them, only losing by 18. We're really in it pretty much the entire game. What was it that you guys do differently than some of the other teams might not be able to?
I don't know. I think last year, for our team last year, we were able to run and throw and keep teams off balance a little bit, and kind of to give defensively, and I think probably the last couple of years we've moved the ball and we've gained a lot of yards, but red zone, when we got there, we didn't execute as well as we needed to get us over the hump and beat them.
Speaking of running and throwing, the leader of the offense, Leighton Adams, is having a heck of a year so far, but going to the offseason didn't look like he was even going to be playing this year at all. You guys had a heck of a scary moment with him this offseason when he ended up getting electrocuted and breaking a couple of vertebrae and all that stuff. Can you just kind of walk me through what was that like for you as a coach to see one of your key guys and just any of your players go through something like that?
Well, I'm at home on a Thursday night before the game and get a call that accident happened, and just a sick feeling that one of our players or anyone was injured. And the whole thing was on his well-being, and we didn't know for quite a while of what the damage was and if he'd be all right going forward. So it was a definitely gut punch, but I was so proud of our kids where they showed up at Comlander Stadium and stayed focused, and Clayton Namkin stepped right in and did a great job in helping us win that game.
For Leighton, have you seen like a different demeanor or anything different about him this year after he kind of goes through that life-altering, life-changing experience?
I think he's become a better leader because of that, and a little more vocal where he hadn't been in the past, and enjoying every day, because he knows firsthand that there's no guarantees. We say it, but he knows it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you go through something like that, it makes you kind of rethink, I guess, how you want to go about things. Coach, I love asking coaches this when we do these interviews.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, right. I love asking coaches this when we talk. Can you give me maybe 2-3 guys on each side of the ball that exemplifies not only your on the field requirements and play well on the field, but off the field as well? Who are the guys that you're like, that's a unicorn football player right there? That's a unicorn student athlete.
I think number one, Lance Beagley, outstanding athlete, outstanding competitor. He plays basketball and also runs track for New Braunfels, 4.0 student, takes all the advanced classes. I think another one is Gavin Espinosa, our offensive lineman, hard worker. I mean, he's put in more time trying to help his skill level and become the best lineman he can possibly be on that. I think our running back, number 5, Tyree Johnson, just good kid, good student. I mean, works hard, good leader for us on the offensive side. I think on the defensive side, DeAndre Davis, our cornerback, another good student, works hard, just a good, solid young man. And I mean, those are guys you can count on to compete. I would think Braden Cundiff, 92, or defensive end. He's got some medical issues he deals with, and still plays and doesn't make an excuse about it. Just keeps on going. Another good student, just a good person, is always there to help some people out.
I can cut this part out if you don't want me to ask about it. Is that the young man that's dealing with cancer right now?
Yeah, he is. He had a procedure on Friday. Is doing well, so he's recovering, and we're waiting for a little more information on some of the things they gathered from the surgery and see where it's headed.
Gotcha. Heck of a young man to even be playing athletics and
yeah,
contribute to a team while going through something as traumatic as you can go through.
Oh, absolutely.
Are those, Coach? I just noticed, are those all TNL trophies on that shelf up there?
Yeah, there's four of them. Yeah.
I just noticed that. I was like, wait, those look really familiar.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there'll be 5 on Friday.
Absolutely. That would be good.
We love having you on, and I love especially the games when we get outside of San Antonio. We kind of expand it. We have Cibla, Steele, and then you guys, and kind of heading up to a whole new demographic. I wanted to ask, and I asked all the coaches this, like, does TNL, to me, it seems like TNL presents you guys an opportunity to show everything and show your band and your cheerleaders and your dance team. And I feel like that's one of the best parts about being on TNL. Do you feel that way also?
I absolutely do. I think it's awesome for the kids in our school that do extra things, extracurricular. I mean, whether it's cheer, dance, band, dance team. I mean, it gives them a chance to shine, and the amount of work that all these groups put into it. Not only just being a student, but all the extra stuff they put in, and the long days that they work, and now they get to, show their friends, show their family, and show the surrounding area of how good they're at their craft.
For you guys, you seem to have built such a community investment almost. Like, people love coming to Unicorn games. People love the Unicorn football team, and not just the football team, but all athletics. What is it that you can attribute that to? Is it you guys and how good you've been, or is it just the community investment as a whole and how much they believe in you?
I think it's the community investment and our administration investment in extracurricular activities, whether it's band or sports or whatever. We feel it's very important to have a well-rounded student here in New Braunfels ISD, and we're growing like crazy as a community, but we still have the small town kind of feel where, on Friday nights, the stadium's full of people in blue, and whether it's, wrestling or basketball later in the season, the stands are full and people cheering on the Unicorns.
Coach, as you guys do expand, you have New Braunfels Canyon, who's relatively new now, and you guys keep getting new high schools, just like kind of down here in San Antonio. How do you keep that? How do you keep your identity, and how do you keep that investment from the community as this community does continue to expand?
I just think we keep our traditions and our values, and not lower the bar one inch of the things we've done now and in the past that other people have done, and the expectations, and keep those the same, and maintain Unicorn pride.
All right, Coach. Well, I think that's all the questions I got for you. Hopefully, we can add something to the trophy case up there.
Absolutely, I hope so.
That subtle flex. I just realized, it's just, You're like, yeah, you know, I only have 4 of them already. Whatever. I love to see it. All right, Coach. Well, I will be on the sidelines on Thursday. I'll come and say hello beforehand, and you know the drill already, so I'll just come say hello on Thursday.
Yeah. All right, I appreciate it. We'll see you Thursday.
Just something that piques your interest from Coach Signs. Apparently, he has a list of players that are going to the next level. It's
From
not,
what we've been told,
it's not
yes.
something. It's not something you hear very often. Is that
Yes.
He's like, hey, who do you have going to the next level? He's like, oh, I got this guy going to Vanderbilt. I got this guy going here. I got this guy going here. Let me send you the list.
It must be nice, right?
The talent on that Steele team is ridiculous.
And like for not just this year, right? I mean, going back, it's just in that area, the whole area there, the Judsons, the Wagners,
Yeah.
the Clemens, you know, you name it. You go out a little further, Smithson Valley. I mean, it's stupid how much real time talent there's been, sustainable talent from one quadrant. It just goes to show you too how much football is important in that little borough, for lack of a better term, and they grow up playing football and wanting to be the next star at Judson or Smithson Valley or any of these schools. It's really fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's hear from a little bit of that talent right now. Steele players are going to come first, so you're going to have the junior all-everything wide receiver, Royal Capel. We're going to hear from him. And then the Vanderbilt commit, DeAndre Carter, senior safety. And then the New Braunfels players you're going to hear from. You're going to hear from young Leighton Adams, who is the quarterback we were just talking about, who had the issue a little bit earlier this year and is back on the field and having a great year. And then you're going to hear from DeAndre Davis. He's a senior corner over at New Braunfels. And then Chuck and I'll be right back to close it out.
Season, when you look at the records, when you look at the scores, it just looks like you guys are, for lack of a better term, playing JV teams out there. From your assessment, how have you guys been playing this year, especially on the offensive side of the ball?
I think since the beginning of the season, we've gotten better and better each week. And I think, our Coach Science definitely preaches that we take it one game at a time. So as a whole and as the offense, we're definitely getting better each week.
What do you like about this offensive unit this year? This is your second year basically as a starter. What do you like about the offensive unit and what you guys are doing?
I really just love that we spread the ball around. Like, it's not one person getting love. I mean, our coaches do an amazing job of spreading the ball around and getting everybody some touches, and we just have fun.
Is it a little bit hard because everybody always wants to be that guy, but when you have a team that it was like you got 2 or 3 receivers that can take over a game, you got a running back that can take over, you got a quarterback that can take over, is it sometimes get a little bit hard because it was kind of like, yo man, I was open, yeah, I was open too, and I was open, and does it get a little bit difficult because it was like there's only one ball to go around to so many great athletes?
Yeah, well, that's big on your own ego. And our coach McDowell, before the beginning of the season, he showed us a clip of the Spurs when they won the championship, how everybody just did their part. You don't, like, so he told us some games is going to be one receiver doing one thing and some games is going to be a lot. It's just all about, like, keeping your composure, not being selfish. That's a big thing he preaches. Just don't be selfish and be happy for one another.
That preseason that you guys play is no joke. You guys play some powerhouses, not only in the state of Texas, but, from the country. How does that prepare you guys for what you guys are now getting ready to face in district?
Well, we play a really good district, so having already been played teams that are really good, I think is going to prepare us really nice in that we keep getting better and better in each practice. I definitely think it helped us out a lot.
You guys this is not new to you guys, but does it feel a little bit weird? You're already in October and you still haven't played a district game where everybody else has already played 3 or 4 district games in the city?
Definitely does feel weird. It did, yeah.
You guys are no stranger to television. You guys have been on television before. What does that do for you guys from the standpoint of it's like, hey man, this Thursday we're on television. All of South Texas gets a chance to see what Steele football is all about. How special is that for you guys?
It's very special. Being on television is amazing, but at the same time, our coach tells us block out all distractions when it comes to game day. So it's like we're on television, but it's still a regular game, week in and week out.
Don't give away any secrets, but what's this offense need to do in order to be able to beat a very good New Braunfels team this week?
I think we just got to come out firing on all cylinders as a whole team and just be physical like we've been playing. And start fast, play fast, and finish fast.
You committed already? to Vanderbilt.
Yes, sir.
And you committed back in July.
Yes, sir.
What was it about Vanderbilt that you loved so much that you want to spend your next 4 years there?
Honestly, I just thought it was a win-win. They're in the SEC, best conference. And then on the academic side of things, they have one of the best academic programs in the world. So I just thought it was a win-win for me, and it was the best, opportunity over love for me. And that's why I went ahead and took advantage of it and committed.
Now let's get back down to finishing out this high school season. You've gotten through the preseason. No slouch. I mean, you guys were blowing out some really good teams. You had the one hiccup with Lake Travis. How did that preseason prepare you guys for now what you guys are getting ready to start up in district play, which, as you know, this is no slouch of a district neither, even though the records might not indicate it. These are tough teams that you got.
Yes, sir. So, playing the tough teams, preseason, it really got us, ready for the powerhouse team, because we don't have an easy schedule. So I think just playing against those tough teams preseason was just going to get us ready, to make a run in the districts and to make a run in deep playoffs. So.
Is it a little bit hard because it was kind of like you play such a long preseason game? So many other, districts and teams have already, they've played 3 or 4 district games yet. You haven't even played your first one yet. Is it a little bit weird at this point, in the season to be like, okay, now we got our first district game?
Yeah, it kind of feels a little weird, playing like 5 games, preseason. But at the end of the day, it gets us prepared. And, the more games you play, the more games you get better. So I think it was all around a good thing. But yeah, it does feel weird, playing a little late. So
this defense is no slouch. I mean, you guys have really kind of come out firing on all cylinders. What do you like about this defensive unit and what you guys have already shown this season?
What I love about this defensive unit is, we lost a lot of seniors last year. So I'm just very, very proud of the young guys that stepped up, and they're playing really, really great, and we're playing really good as an all-around defense. We need to work on little things here and there, but we've been just having fun together, and we finally starting that connection, and once that starts, that it starts clicking, so it's gonna start. We're gonna go for it.
TNL this week, you get a chance to showcase your talents for everybody. It's not like you guys have never been on television before. You have. But once again, it's another great opportunity for all of South Texas to see not only what this defensive unit does, but this entire Steele Nation does. How special is that for you guys, especially your seniors, and that this might be one of your last hurrahs on TV?
Yeah, it's really, really special. It's a special feeling to, you're playing in front of anybody. So we just kind of got to take advantage of that. And, we have a tough opponent this week, so we just try to get better. And, the word of the week was execute, so we're going to try to execute as much as we can and try to come out with the win.
No secrets, but it's like, what does this defense need to do to slow down a New Braunfels team that has shown at times they can be very explosive?
Honestly, we just got to play our game at the end of the day and just let our D-line, handle their business like they do up front, and let our linebackers, sideline to sideline players, and just our secondary to, stop the pass. And, they have a lot of key players like Lance, their quarterback and running back. So, those are their key players, and, as long as we, hold them down, then we'll be fine.
How's the season going from the quarterback position? It was like, how's everything been going for you guys?
Man, with the quarterback position, it's really how the team's going, because you got to be the leader of the team, and the best high school teams in the state, they always have a great quarterback and great leader. So we've definitely not gotten out to the best start that you could imagine, but that was all pre-district, and it doesn't matter as much as what's to come. And so we're getting ready for that and are looking forward to the game on Thursday.
You guys have a ridiculously rough preseason schedule, and longer than obviously most districts in the state of Texas.
Yes, sir.
How do you think playing some of these state powerhouses have kind of prepared you for now what you're going to face in obviously what is also a very tough district play?
Yeah, to start off with Steele in district, it's pretty. It's like a blatant. They're the guys to beat in our district right now, and for us to play great teams in the pre-district, it's definitely an advantage rather than just running it up on a bunch of lower level schools. So I'm thankful for that.
You guys get a chance to showcase your talents on television, and New Braunfels isn't anything new for you guys. When you guys find out, especially from a senior standpoint, because For some seniors, this is probably going to be their last hurrah. They're not going to play at the next level. How special is that for you guys that all of South Texas gets the chance to watch you guys this week?
Gosh, it's such a blessing, and such a blessing that we get to be put on this platform to share the game of football together. God blesses us with the ability to do this, and it puts all the pieces together around us, and we're really thankful for that.
What do you like when you get out in that field, whether it be in a game or in practice? What do you like about this offensive unit that you're commanding?
Geez, they're a great group of guys, and they're fun to be around. And this group, they know when to put their head down and work, which is nice. They're not just goofballs, but they're great. And there's no one else I'd rather go fight with on Thursday night.
All right, no secrets, but what do you guys need to do in order to beat a very good Steele team this Thursday night?
And we need to definitely win the turnover battle, give ourselves a chance there. We got to be disciplined and not put us behind the sticks. That's a big deal.
And offensively, what do you guys need to do in order to keep moving those chains every single down?
Yeah, we gotta. I think establishing the run game is a big deal, and definitely bringing the explosive plays as part of our signature.
From the defensive side of the ball, how's this season been going for you guys? It seems like there've been a handful of games that you've lost, but you were right there in that, a play or two, and this is an entirely different record right now. It's like, what's it been like from your perspective?
Our practices have been tough, because we're going against our preseason's tough opponents, and so we just had to prepare better during practices.
That first game against Denton Ryan. If you make those plays in that game that flips that score around like you did last year, how much more confidence and how much do you think this season would have been a little bit different going into district play? You think your record might have been undefeated going into district play?
Possibly an outcome, but I believe that, it all depends on your practices, the weeks. And, some practices are slower than others, and some practices are better than others. And so, the better our practices are, the better our game will be.
With such a tough preseason schedule, how has that prepared you for now what's going to be a very, very tough district schedule for you guys?
It's prepared us really good because we played Denton Ryan and teams with a bunch of athletes like Steele, Judson. Just really, it's similar teams to each other, so it really just prepares us for the season.
How close do you think you guys are, especially on the defensive side of the ball? How close are you guys to finally getting all of this to start clicking and start doing what New Braunfels football is all about?
No, we're really close. We've been swarming to the football, and everything's been looking better, especially with our bye week. We've got a lot more time to prepare.
What do you like about, for lack of a better term, sorry for sounding like an old man, but what do you like about these dogs when you take the field with them?
Oh, I love every single one of them. They're my boys.
You get to showcase your talents last time on TNL so that all of South Texas gets a chance to see you. How special is that for you guys to be able to showcase what unicorn football is all about?
It's amazing. It's always great to be playing on TV. Everybody wants to do it.
And no secrets, but what do you guys need to do on the defensive side of the ball in order to slow down a very explosive Steele offense?
Just swarm to the football. Everybody needs to be there. All 11 guys to the football.
Can't get more excited than Thursday Night Lights, Chuck.
Amen, brother. And it's always cool, too, when you have a matchup with a little juice in it.
Yeah.
Right? This is a league game. Both teams coming off a bye. Let's strap it on. Let's go. Let's see what happens.
And they always play each other close, too. Like we said a little earlier, Coach Mangold lives for this matchup. This is their toughest game. Steele's the best team in the district. I don't think I'm breaking any new ground here. Steele's the best team in the district. New Braunfels always gives them a tough game, and these two coaches love going against each other.
And the beauty about these sections of the schedule, too, right? Opening day is always really big, and then you're getting ready to play a league game. Again, your whole season's right in front of you. It doesn't matter that New Braunfels is 2-3 or that they've lost 3 games by a grand total of 9 points. This is opening night for these guys.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Plus, that district's so weird. There's 6 teams, 4 spots, but one of them can't make the playoffs this year. So it's 5 teams jockeying for 4 spots. So it's as competitive as ever because one team's not going to make it. So I love this time of year. So let's wrap it up right there. That's the High School Hype Squad edition of the Sneakers and Cleats Podcast. Zach and I are going to be back here on Friday to break down the upcoming week of football. Cowboys, monstrous game for the Cowboys this week against the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Baseball postseason well underway. The Rangers didn't give one away last night, so
got to get one more, right?
They got to get one more. I don't know if it's going to happen tonight.
The Rays gave it away. I mean, I knew they were struggling on defense a little, but to see what we saw in Game 1, that was astonishing.
I don't know. Nasty Nate on the mound tonight as we sit here on Wednesday. So actually, I think coming up in just a few minutes here. It's almost 2:00. So got to get on by the TV to watch that one.
Amen.
We got some Spurs coverage as well. Wemby talk today. We'll break all that down for you on Friday. Plus, we got the Red River rivalry, and we'll talk to our resident Sooner, Zach Hedrick, about that. So I don't know how he's going to feel about this Texas OU game.
You just did the same thing that I've done a million times. Every time I have to read Red River rivalry on the air, I put a period after every single word because there's just no way you can slam through that. You are going to get a speed bump.
It's the rivalry.
Right.
Quick reminder, you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. The YouTube version has video elements, sound bites, all that good stuff plugged in along the way. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, unsubscribe, resubscribe, re-rate, re-review. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us some feedback. Feedback is a gift. We will see you right back here on Friday on the Sneakers and Cleats Podcast.